Bloomberg International araştırma masasındayız. Yanımda Judith Bogner var. Her gün olduğu gibi çok fazla vakit kaybetmeden kendisine dönmek istiyorum. Hi Judith.
Merhaba, ne haber? I just learned that.
Oh, that's great. So as you see, she's picking up already some
Just
Turkish.
a little bit.
We're almost there. All right.
Yeah.
So markets rising today. So what is the focus for investors?
Where shall I start? We've got three big topics today. Non-farm payrolls in the US. What's the situation in the unemployment market? Or the labour market, if you like. EU summit in Brussels. What's going to happen to the EU Rescue Fund? Will it be used in a more flexible way? Will it be amplified? I.e., will the volume be increased from currently 440 billion euros, which some say is a little bit too little in order to really support the countries in trouble. And then, of course, the unrest in Egypt. So these three topics are at the moment playing out in the markets. And what I see at the moment is the markets are trading high indeed. So, but it's gone very quiet at the moment because I'm looking at the clock. It's 11:30 London time. We'll have another about 2 hours until non-farm payrolls come out of the US. So until then, I suspect it's going to be relatively quiet if nothing happens out of the normal situation. It's not normal situation in Egypt, but if that stays quiet, we will have to hold off and then see when those numbers come in, what actually then happens in the markets for the rest of the afternoon. I'm looking at the industry groups in Europe. We see construction rising quite significantly, insurance, banks, telecoms, insurance banks. There were some recommendations from analysts, but overall market trading higher. And I want to very quickly check on the region in the Middle East, and you see Turkey is down, Kuwait down, Qatar slightly higher, Dubai is down as well. So at the moment it's relatively quiet with rising stocks in Europe.
Yeah, sure. And how about the market update for the Egyptian? Because this is the 5th trading day,
Yes.
and the markets are closed in Egypt.
Yes, indeed. I was looking that up earlier because, of course, on the 27th was the last trading day. I'll very quickly, we can have the camera zoom in there, what happened that day, that huge decline. It's exactly a week ago when the market dropped about, so it's taking a bit of time until it's loading. But here we go. We had a drop last Friday, of 10%. Now, I've looked this morning, and risk against default, you know, the credit default swaps, which can insure investors against a potential default of Egypt. They dropped. They were on January 13th, so sometime this week, at the highest level since March 2009. Yesterday, they dropped to 377, despite the unrest, despite the violence we saw. And we know that next week they're planning to open a stock market again on February 7th. And also they plan to continue with the debt sales because, of course, as a sovereign state, Egypt, like everybody else, has to refinance themselves. They were planning to issue $11 billion. And of course, with the downgrades we had, Fitch, S&P, Moody's, it will be more cost intense, but they're planning for the time being to go ahead with that. So watch the space.
Yeah. How about the oil prices? Because there's a big impact on oil prices, the crisis in Egypt. So
yeah, we've been keeping an eye on that all week, and for very good reason, because rising oil prices feed into higher inflation. And that's a problem, not just for consumers in the Middle East, but everywhere in the world, also in Western Europe. And take, for example, the ECB yesterday. There were very much questions by the journalists in Frankfurt. What do you make of the latest increase in oil price, in commodity costs, of the unrest in the Middle East? And at the moment, they're still holding off. They're saying it's a short-term upward pressure. We did expect that. We keep an eye on it. So we'll have to wait until the next meeting of the ECB until they will come forward with new projections. So Jean-Claude Trichet, the president of the ECB, did not give away anything. But of course, as these prices keep go up, Brent in London rising, WTI in New York rising, and then very, very crucially, the OPEC oil basket price has literally gone up almost 50% since May last year, and since the beginning of this year, it increased almost 10%, very much on the back of the trouble in the Middle East. And I just want to tell you what's happening within the OPEC group at the moment. The next meeting is on June the 2nd, but already Saudi Arabia has been saying that they'd like to see the output increased. They have moved to curb the oil rally. They cut the March prices for their deliveries of crude oil to Asia, which is their biggest export market. And we know that the Saudi oil minister Al Naimi said that $75 thereabouts would be more appropriate. But look where it is, almost 100. So big issue also for OPEC. They're quite concerned because already before that, those unrests kicked in, prices were rising due to stronger economic growth.
We have less than 1 minute. Just have a quick look to Louis Vuitton.
Louis Vuitton, oh yes.
Profit rises 73%, but the shares down.
The shares are down 2.5%. Well, investors were telling us this morning that the operating profit trailed estimates. Having said that, the revenue was up 20% in fourth quarter. Net profit beat estimates by $500 million, and the shares have done well over the last 12 months. I can very quickly bring that up on the Bloomberg, so you see that they had a nice run since August last year, and they're now trailing off a bit. That might have to do with what's going on in Hermes, because they invested and bought shares and now owning 20.2% in Hermes, which is of course another luxury goods manufacturer, done very well as well. And this brought together the founding family of Hermes, and they said, no, we're not going to have anything of that. We're going to pull together and prevent Louis Vuitton from getting more shares, from getting in more. And also the French regulator is investigating this stake and how Louis Vuitton could amass so many shares. So do watch this space, because of course it could end up to be like a battle for Hermes, because Louis Vuitton is not the only luxury goods company interested for Hermes, which is a famous brand worldwide. You know, Jean Birkin handbags. I don't own one, just in case you were asking. Far too expensive, but of course high-profile goods for celebrities and so
Believe
forth.
me, it's so famous in Turkey as well.
Yes, I believe so.
Thank you very much
You're
for
so
joining
welcome.
us. Söz tekrar İstanbul'da.